What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're here for another movie Battlegrounds. It is I, Jay Burns, along with an illustrious group of judges and contestants today. Today we have Eli McCaig versus Nazario Montenegro. Before we get into that, I want to jump in and see how my judges are feeling, and we'll start the match. So, Dan, how you feeling about tonight's contenders?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I have a little bit of inside information. There's one guy wearing a Cubs hat who is very good at this. I mean, very good at this. Nazario, I'm really looking for you to give me some great explanations of your answers, because I know that Eli is really going to bring it tonight.
Eli definitely has an uncanny ability to make you believe everything it is that he says. And I know that from seeing a couple of these happen. And before we get too spoilery-rific, we'll jump over to Caleb, Lil Boatman. Caleb, how you feeling about tonight's lineup, bud?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. You know, these are actually both competitors that I've played against in movie trivia before in some capacity. So I'm excited to see what they can do as far as movie debating goes, because I've not seen either of them debate movies before, just play really good movie trivia. So I'm excited to see how this is going to go. Yeah.
All right, and we will get into having a quick conversation with our two opponents tonight. I'll start with the man who unmuted himself, Eli McCaig. How you feeling tonight, bud?
Oh man, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling ready to try to win a battle. Earlier today, I was even asking my parents for advice on one of the questions, because I was very much thinking, hey, this is probably going to be the tough question for me to battle, so let's see if you can try to help me get some advice from them. So yeah, I think after talking to them and working out a strategy for one particular question, I think I'm ready.
Awesome, bud. Glad to hear it. I can't wait to see how you do tonight. And we will go over to your challenger, Nazario. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. I have a little cough, so that might annoy me a little bit during the match, but it's my debut match in these leagues, and I expect to be at least decent. If I happen to win, that would be great. But I'm just going to play it by ear. Let's see what happens.
Most definitely. Glad to hear it. So I'm going to go over the rules real quick with you guys, and then we will jump right in. So our main round consists of 3 questions, where each players get a 2-minute opening statement before going at each other for roughly 5 minutes. We won't give you too much longer than that. Then you'll both get a 2-minute closing. Each player has a one-time option to get a 1-minute extension during the argument section of the question. So when a player asks for an extension, both players will argue for the original 5 minutes plus an additional 1 minute. If both ask for the extension, we will give it another minute. So it'll go to 7 minutes instead of 5. So our speed round consists of 2 questions. The first question of the speed round, players will each get a 30-second opening statement, followed by a 15-second rebuttal. And the second speed round question, players will get a 30-second opening, followed by 2 20-second, and then a 10-second rebuttal. First player to get 3 points will win. If we have a player who manages to get all 3 points in the main round, it will be considered as a knockout, and speed rounds won't be necessary. Does everybody understand how how the game is going to be played today? All right. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Our first question is, what was the best movie of the year 1970? And because Eli has actually been here before, he's technically the higher ranked competitor, he will be starting off.
Now, when it comes to the year 1970, I was born way after that year, so I didn't know 100% what movies came out. So I did some research. Then after doing the research, I saw a movie that I recognized, because it is a movie that I had seen in the year 1970, that came out that year. And that movie that I'm fighting for is Love Story, starring Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw. Now, a lot of people may be wondering, Eli, why are you rooting for that one? Simple. because Love Story shows the life of a couple from when they first meet to the, spoiler alert, ultimate end of the lead female. And in the movie, it shows the story of how they fell in love to how they have to go through their love to how it ends, which is heartbreaking. And it is a movie that could be considered very relatable to couples around the world. And it has terrific performances from Ryan O'Neal. He was nominated for Best Actor in the movie, and it had a memorable performance from Eli McCaig, who got nominated for Best Actress in that year. But not only that, it had a great supporting cast with the actor that played Ryan O'Neal's dad getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And with it being based off of a novel, it had great source material right there. And it even got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay because of how great the story is. And I really do believe that this is the best movie of 1970.
All right, so we have heard from Eli. Now, Nazario, please tell us what your pick is for the best movie of 1970.
Well, the best actual movie of 1970 is the classic Patton. It has a great performance by George C. Scott that actually won the Oscar for Best Picture. It has a great screenplay by Francis Ford Coppola that also actually won for Best Screenplay. And it's iconic. It's one of the first real biopics made about the history of a person that feels complete, feels like a three-dimensional portrayal of the character. Patton is shown not only in his best moments, he is shown in his lowest moments, and George C. Scott shines throughout the whole thing. It works as a drama, it works as a biopic, it works as an action film, it works as a war film. It's the most well-rounded one, and it doesn't have as many weak points as the one suggested by my opponent here. And that's all I gotta say for now, so I yield the rest of my time.
All right. So we have arguably two of the best movies from the year 1970. I can't wait to see how these guys go about it. So whoever starts talking first, Lil Boat will start the clock. As soon as somebody starts to speak, we will get a 1-minute warning, and then once you hear time, we do ask that you please stop talking. Everything after the word time will be disregarded by the judges.
Nazario, when you speak about how Patton actually won Oscars, we can't forget that just because it wins an Oscar does not mean it's an amazing movie. I have a list of Oscar winners that are not considered or even in the category of great movies. Examples: Suicide Squad, The Wolfman, Alice in Wonderland, The Golden Compass. Just because a movie wins an Oscar doesn't mean it's a great movie. And
it's funny how you are
on
mentioning Oscars of technical categories, and you're not mentioning any movie that actually won the top 5 Oscars, which Patton basically won acting, screenplay, directing, and even Best Picture of 1970.
Yes,
yes, I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm just saying it's one of the reasons. I'm sorry you only watched one movie from 1970, but you picked one that it was not even well received by critics. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 63. It's barely fresh, and honestly, man, it's so full of cliches. I don't really understand how can anybody relate to it now.
You talk about my movie being a cliche when you look at your movie, and I did my research. Just because I didn't see Patton doesn't mean I didn't do my research. And I looked up. I did every single bit of research I did on Patton. All I looked up and all I saw was a monotonous film of talk about a battle, do a battle, talk about a battle, do a battle, talk about a battle, do a battle. It's just repeating, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Whenever you look at my film, you actually see a character growth.
Time. I think you would have needed to watch the whole thing to actually feel how it flows from one scene to another. And I don't really know what you mean that that couples can identify with your movie, because it's just full of cliches.
The reason why I say couples can.
It has the rich guy for the poor girl. She even gets the disease that makes her prettier the longer she's dying, and how he tries to reconnect with his father in the cheapest way possible. I have seen this done 500 times, and pretty much everything is better than this one. Honestly, this is maybe a good date movie. I saw no development for any of the characters in Patton. You have the complete story of Patton. And you also have great performances by Carl Madden, who is his subordinate, who suffers all the way through the movie under the command of this guy, who is famously being a pig-headed man that always wanted to go his way.
You say that Patton shows character development, but when you look at the main character himself, he's still a war. He wants to be a war hero from beginning to end. There's no change. He never wants to be anything more than that. With my characters, Ryan O'Neal grows from being a stuck-up rich kid to actually caring about the woman that he's in love with. And you see Ali McGraw, who starts out as this sort of low class, thinking, oh, I don't need you, to fully falling in love with this man. That's character growth. And again, you look at George C. Scott portraying Patton, he's war hero, gung-ho war hero from beginning to end. You really never see that growth of him actually changing as a person. And I say the movie is relatable.
Are you describing She's All That? Because it basically sounds about the same. And yes, you do have scenes in Patton where you see him broken. You see how his mentality of going forward in war, it doesn't always work out. He has to deal with Ike Eisenhower, which actually knows more strategy than him, and he starts feeling like a dinosaur. He is this close to being dismissed from the army at one point. And you get all this sense during the film. The thing is, you're trying to argue that there's no character growth in my movie without actually seeing the movie. So you don't really understand how it develops. Your acting is really weak. Ryan O'Neal, it never feels like a real guy. He always feels like a cartoon version of that guy. And Ali McGraw,
he is a real person. There are people out there in the real world that act just like Ryan O'Neal's character, and there are people out there in the real world that act like Ali McGraw's character. And look, you talk about your movie. My movie has very memorable dialogue, even at the very end when everyone looks at it and says, everyone can quote the most iconic quote of Love Story, which is, love means never having the same. Whenever I look at Patton, I can't think of anything, and I did my research, and I can't think of anything that's memorable.
Speeches of all time with the American flag.
Quote it to me right now. Quote it to me right now.
Going into the center and speaking to the troops for the first time, saying, this is not about being afraid to join the war. We're waiting for the war to be ready for America. I mean, that is a lot. You can put that in any historic montage of films, and it's way more recognizable than any scene that you can pick from Love Story. I'm sorry.
You talk about your movie. You talk about my movie not being relatable. You talk about my movie not being
time. Thank you very much, fellas. I appreciate it. I will say, please try to be a little bit more considerate if somebody is trying to get a point in edgewise. Don't try to overstep on people. And yeah, let's just keep it civil. But we're going to go into closing arguments right now, so you both do get 2 minutes worth of a closing argument. So if you can wrap everything up real neat, let us know why your movie, not necessarily your opponent's movie, isn't the best, but why your movie is truly the best movie from the year 1970 would be greatly appreciated. I believe Eli started the discourse, so we're going to go to Nazario first. Nazario, nice little package, bow on top, your movie, best movie of 1970, go.
My movie, like I said, it's iconic. It's a classic. It has one of the best opening speeches of all time. It has a great performance by George C. Scott that won the Academy Award. It has the expertly written screenplay of Francis Ford Coppola that also won the Best Screenplay Award. It was actually the best movie of the year. It was the best directed movie of the year. It's a complete picture of a three-dimensional character from beginning to end. It shows Patton at his best moments, at his lowest moments, and everything in between. It has Carl Madden giving a superb supporting performance as the guy who has to put up with Patton during the whole ordeal. And it has actually epic battle scenes that have incredible historic accuracy. If you look at the battles that happened and the way he had to deal with them, it's perfect with what is on screen. You say that's the reasons why mine's better. I still think his is weak. And I'm not gonna repeat all of them, so not bore you, but definitely I don't know how you can even compare these two movies. Even if you go to the most basic comparison tool that exists, that is Rotten Tomatoes, it's 95 to 63. So Patton is the best movie. You can go on, Eli.
All right, thank you very much. Lil Boat, please reset the clock. 2 minutes on it for Eli. Eli, you already know the entire spiel, but wrap it up, nice, neat little bow. Whenever you start talking, your time will start.
Whenever you talk about the movies between Patton and Love Story, I say my movie is more relatable than Patton. Whenever you look at Patton, you can only think about the only people that can truly relate to that movie are gung-ho soldiers that only relate to Patton's mentality. My movie is relatable to the sense that people that are going through relationships can look at this movie and say, I relate to Ryan O'Neal. I can relate to Alan McGraw. And that is why my movie is better than his. It's because the characters grow from being a rich kid and girl that doesn't care about any of that to them caring about each other. And when you look at this movie, you think about a thing that can help watch the movie. I think Love Story is the more rewatchable movie of the two. When people watch Patton, they just want to watch it because, oh, it's a classic. I want to watch a classic. People watch Love Story because they want to understand what love truly means. And what better way for a guy to win a girl's heart than with a romance? And that's exactly what Love Story is. Patton is just a movie that repeats the same beats of talking about a battle to going into a battle. Patton is a gung-ho war hero from start to end. He really doesn't change. There's not a lot of memorable dialogue or memorable characters in the movie, with Love Story specifically having one of the most iconic lines in all of movie history, even being in AFI's top 100 quotes of all time, with love means never having to say you're sorry. And Patton's big monologue, nowhere to be seen on any memorable quotes ever. Love Story is an iconic, is a movie that I believe is the best of 1970 for the simple fact that people can relate to it, and it's a film that is rewatchable instead of it being considered probably a homework assignment to having to watch.
All right. Good use of time. I appreciate you stopping as soon as we said time. There's a little bit to talk about with this one. The man I know is familiar with classics, I believe, is the person I'm going to go with first. And it's the one surprisingly not wearing a hat this match. Caleb, Low Boat Boatman, what did you think and who gets your point?
Yeah, both of them had really good arguments here. You know, Eli was talking about the character development and kind of the changing of the characters. You know, Patton, and Nazario was talking about like the three-dimensional character aspects of Patton. And what really was the deciding kind of factor for me was that back and forth freeform thing. Because I think just about everything that Eli was throwing at Nazario was able to shut down and really defend his movie well. And then he got some real good jabs in about Ryan O'Neal's performance and stuff like that. So I do think I'm going to give it to Nazario for Patton.
All right, we have one for Nazario. Dan, where does your vote lie, my good sir?
All right, so Nazario chose Patton. He said great performances by Carl Malden and George C. Scott. A Best Picture winner. He said Coppola did the screenplay. It's a great drama, a great biopic, a great war film. He said it was, in his opinion, it's clearly by far the best film we of the two that these guys have chose. It has that Eli's film had no development, and its Rotten Tomato score was 63%. Eli said it has heart, a heartbreaking story, a female dies, Ryan O'Neal, Ali McGraw. It had some nominations, has a great screenplay. He thinks it's the best of 1970, and he gave some bad examples, in my opinion, of films that have won Academy Awards. So in my opinion, and he also said there was a one of AFI's top quotes in the film. But what I got, what really resonated with me was Nazario kept on hammering Eli with Oscar, Best Picture, Oscar, Carl Malden, Oscar, George C. Scott, Best Picture winner, 1970. It fits into all these categories. I mean, it was just like a who's who or a what's what of Academy Award categories. And the examples that Eli chose of Oscar winners, he chose a bunch of bad films in bad category. He didn't choose bad films that won Best Picture winners. And in my opinion, Patent is the best choice here. I think Nazario gets the point from me.
All right. Let's not let our personal biases show. I know you love the movie, and I appreciate the breakdown. So my vote doesn't matter because it is 2-1. I got shouted down here. So we will be giving the first point to Nazario. I did just want to point out a couple of quick things. I took some notes as well. I thought that Eli did a great job saying that your film that Nazario's film was monotonous. It's just battle, talk, battle, talk, battle, talk. There wasn't a lot said about that. And his movie doesn't change, but he also said, he did nail him with the my movie does have a quote on AFI's top 100 most quoted best quotes from a movie of all time. His movie's more relatable to people outside of just like battle hardened veterans or people who like historical type biopic or military dramas. I thought that was a really good blow to land because it is a little bit more of an accessible movie. But I think I would have still had to, with the whole, my film has a 95, yours has a 63. I felt that Nazario talked overall more about why his movie was the best film of 1970, not just, this is why this is a good movie, but giving examples as to why. And there were just a few more. So we will actually be moving on to question number 2. Question number 2 is, who was the best on-screen couple? An actor or actress? It doesn't have to be an actor or actress. It could be an actor and an actor, or actress and an actress. We don't judge around here. It's not for us to do. But what couple had the best on-screen chemistry? So yeah, we started with Eli, so we're gonna start with Nazario. Your 2 minutes starts whenever you start talking, but Lobo, please reset the clock.
Okay. When you mention best on-screen couples, of course you're talking to somebody who's gonna jump at you, something that's gonna be like a classic couple. So the only pick for me was Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, because what exemplifies an on-screen couple better than Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan? They were known for being in couple movies during the 80s and 90s, and they work in so many different versions of that story. None of the movies felt repetitive. They always felt original because they were different. And even at this day, everybody relates to what it is a Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks film. The kind of movie you're getting, and you're going to get good chemistry and good acting between both parties. I have more things to say about them, but I would save them for the main round, so I yield my time.
All right. Making quick work of the allotted 2 minutes. Lobo, please reset the clock. And as soon as you're ready, Eli, we will start that clock for you.
All right. Whenever I'm looking at on-screen couples, I was looking at the full spectrum of classic to modern day. And whenever I'm looking at every single couple, I can only think of a couple that, even in recent years, have proven to be the most profitable, and whenever you think about it, the smartest choice to put as the couple, and that's Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Whenever those two are on screen together, you instantly feel that chemistry. You think, oh, there they are. Oh, I feel it. I feel the comedy between them. I feel the love between them. It just feels natural that they're together on screen together. And not only that, they've been in 3 pictures together where even if the film is dipping down, you put them together, oh, this movie is great now because those two are stealing the show just by being next to each other and talking to each other. And for the rest of what I have to say, I'll save it for the 5-minute round.
All right. So we have Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks versus Emma Stone. Okay. Versus Emma Stone, and I cannot believe I forgot his name already.
Ryan Gosling.
That's his name. Thank you very much. The ugly duckling. Okay. So please reset the clock, Lil Boat, and we will let you guys have 5 minutes of freeform.
My couple start in completely different films. They start in a fantasy film called Joe versus the Volcano. They start in a romantic comedy where the characters don't meet until the last scene of the movie in Sleepless in Seattle. And they made a more common, regular romantic film in You Got Mail. And they made all of them work. Every time they were on screen together, you could feel that attraction, that chemistry between the character that make you keep want to watch, and also made you overlook some of the more cliché parts of romantic comedies. They were, in essence, what it meant to be a romantic couple in comedies in the 90s. He said that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone starred in 3 movies together as a couple, but I think the only relevant element here is La La Land, because if you think about Crazy Stupid Love, that's not really an Emma Stone Ryan Gosling movie. In any case, it's more of a Steve Carell Ryan Gosling movie, and Emma Stone just happens to be there in a few scenes with him. And Gangster Squad is just bad. That's a bad film. I don't know why would you bring that up on any kind of.
I bring it up because the entire concept, the entire question is the best duo, the best couple. And when you watch Gangster Squad, sure, it's a bad movie, but when you see the duo, the couple together, that's the only reason why you want to watch the movie. They are the things that work in the movie. And you can say Crazy Stupid Love is a Ryan Gosling and Stephen Carell, but once you put Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in the film together, you're just like, oh, I'm ignoring the rest, and this is the main story that I want to focus on. They are the couple that is just the best part of the entire film. And La La Land even exemplifies that more, with Emma Stone winning an Oscar for that movie, showing how the chemistry together worked. You bring up Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. The only 2 memorable movies that I can think of is You Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle. And you mentioned how Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in Sleepless in Seattle don't meet until the very end of the movie. And to me, that's one of those things of, no, I want to see my couples together throughout the entire film, because that's the point of a romantic comedy or a romance movie, is to
You cannot have it both
couples
ways.
together.
You cannot say that against my movie, where the movie actually works because of how they portray their characters, and then defend your pick where they have like 15 minutes of screen time together in Crazy Stupid Love, which is actually a good movie and it works. Steve Carell works with Ryan Gosling and Julianne Moore, and they don't really need Emma Stone in that movie. And yes, they do have good chemistry in La La Land, but Ryan Gosling can have better chemistry with anybody. He was way better with Rachel McAdams in just 1 movie, which was The Notebook. He was way better with Carey Mulligan in Drive. And actually, Emma Stone too had better chemistry with Andrew Garfield in both the Spider-Man movies than what he has with Ryan Gosling in most of your 3 films. And the fact that you haven't watched Joe versus the Volcano, maybe just because you're a young guy, but that was a fantastic movie in the 80s where they kept showing. And she played 3 characters in that movie. Meg Ryan played 3 characters.
If you want to talk about better chemistry between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, I think Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal have better chemistry in When Harry Met Sally than Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks do in both of the other movies that I've seen. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, no matter what movie you put them in, they have the best chemistry. And you talk about how they have chemistry for 15 minutes. No, they're together in Crazy Stupid Love longer than 15 minutes. And just for that, they have, no matter what, you can believe their relationships in all 3 of the movies, even when they have the femme fatale meets the detective in Gangster Squad. They show how that worked. Whereas, again, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan basically play the same characters whenever they're together. And whenever you see Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling together, they play it differently from Detective and Femme Fatale to
Joe versus the Volcano was a movie about a guy that was going to a private island to die and met three versions of that were completely different of Meg Ryan. In Sleepless in Seattle, they were two people that were parents and were apart for most of the movie and fell in love through the radio. And in You Got Mail, they actually were a big corporation guy that was going to buy and ruin the business of a smaller person. And they are completely different characters. They make it work because they are very good actors and they know each other. And every time you see them together, you know what you're getting, a good feeling, a good film. In fact, they have so good chemistry that when they did a fourth part together in the very small part of a Meg Ryan direct movie, Ithaca, in 2015, which is a movie about a completely different set of situations, Tom Hanks
1 minute warning, guys.
flashbacks as the dead parent who was married to Meg Ryan, and it was so endearing because the moment you saw them together, you knew that was a unit of family and love and care for the children who actually were the star of the movie. It's iconic.
It's funny
You cannot
how you,
take
it's
anything
funny
that
how
they
you
have.
bring up a
Maybe La La Land is
It's
iconic.
no. Crazy Stupid Love is iconic as well. But again, I say that when you put Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone together, no matter what, they're always going to have perfect chemistry together. Whenever I hear, oh, these two are going to be in a movie together, I'm always thinking, oh, it's going to be great chemistry. Whenever I hear Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, I'm always thinking, this could be bad. This could be bad. Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, perfect chemistry whenever I hear them together. And again, Femme Fatale, Detective, perfect chemistry. Playboy with Modest Girl, perfect chemistry.
I think you
A
needed
jazz
more
club
to
owner
get
and wannabe actress, perfect chemistry.
Time.
Emma Stone and Ryan.
Time. All right. So we do have closing rounds coming up. We had Nazario go first last round. Eli go first this round. We're going to start. Nazario, your 2 minutes.
Like I said, when you think of screen couples, you mean like classic screen couples, people that jump at you immediately. And Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks definitely had chemistry. And different than what my opponent is saying about his movies, mine actually were three solid movies. Joe versus the Volcano is an excellent fantasy comedy from the 80s. Sleepless in Seattle is an excellent rom-com from the early 90s. And You Got Mail is an excellent comedy from the late 90s. They even have the best part of the Meg Ryan directed Ithaca, which is a lesser film to some extent, but everything where they show up works. And he brought me one, granted, excellent movie with La La Land, one funny, not memorable comedy with Crazy Stupid Love, which I still insist most people don't associate Emma Stone with. It's mostly Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling, unless you actually watch the movie. And a bad movie with Gangster Squad that I'm sorry, the relationship is not strong enough to carry that film. And if I have to watch an hour and a half of a bad movie just to get a snippet of an okay couple performance, it's just not a good choice. I think mine are classics. I think they stand by themselves. The test of time proves it. And I think his actors actually have better chemistry with other people. Everybody knows The Notebook. Everybody knows that's a perfect screen cover right there. And even people who hated the Amazing Spider-Man reboots know that the Gwen Stacy Peter Parker part worked because that chemistry was real. I don't think anything that he mentioned even resembles the level those other movies achieved with the same actors. I'm done.
All right, nicely done. Thank you for keeping heat of your time. Eli, we will have the clock reset, and as soon as you start talking, bud, you will have 2 minutes.
My opponent brought up two unforgettable movies and two forgettable movies. And when you look at Sleepless in Seattle, the Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks only meet each other at the very end of the movie, and that's not what I want to see. And that's boring, having to wait for your couple to come together at the very end. Whenever you see Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling together, no matter how long they're together, you believe it from beginning, middle, end. Gangster Squad, sure, may not be a great film, but that's not the question. What's the better film? The question is, what's the better duo? And when they are together, you are captivated by that duo from the moment they first meet to the moment they are together to the end. And when you look at Crazy Stupid Love, again, the question isn't what's the better movie? It's the couple. And whenever you see Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling together, you believe the romance or the comedy from the love that they have for each other. And seeing how the two characters are basically two different forces. They are the north and south of a magnet coming together, and it's perfect. And then you see La La Land, in itself, one of the greatest movies that they have been in together, and you see their relationship beginning, middle, end. It's a great relationship. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan have only been in two memorable movies, and they are okay movies at best. And Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling have been in three consecutive movies that make me go, oh, their chemistry, I believe it, I remember it, and I keep it in my mind from when I first see them to when the credits start rolling. And to me, that's what I want to have. I want to see a couple that I can remember from beginning to end.
All right. Two very well discussed and fought arguments. Now we will get around to our judges' decisions, and we will still be starting with Dan, Skip, Alan. Bud, please start us off.
All right, so Nazario chose Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. They were in three original movies. He said people can relate to them: Joe versus Volcano, Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail. They all work. You could feel the chemistry. He said that Eli's films are cliched. He points out that he only had one good one, and that's La La Land, and that he pointed out that Gangster Squad is an awful movie. Eli chose Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. They have three movies together. They steal the show. They work well together, and they're two memorable actors. I think what this comes down to is Eli trying to bash Nazario's picks, and Nazario trying to bash Eli's picks. And similar to the first question, I just felt Nazario really tore Eli's picks to shreds. He showed that they aren't that good of movies. And I don't think Eli could tear up and tear down Nazario's movies except for one, really. And he specifically said they have two good movies. And then but Nazario showed that Eli did not have two good movies. They had one good movie. And so based on them bashing each other's movies, that's what made me give a decision to Nazario once again in this point.
Okay. All right. Very nicely done. Thank you very much for that succinct breakdown. So instead of moving on to the little boat, we will move on to myself. This is what I've got written down. I want to see my couples together. I don't want to wait until the end of a film. To me, I think that's a big hit. So is Billy Crystal had better chemistry with Meg Ryan in one film than Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan did in a span of films. And Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan play the same thing over and over again. The acting is different in Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling's movies, whereas those might not be good movies, but we're not talking about the caliber of the movie. We're talking about the couple. And with Nazario, I've got Crazy Stupid Love isn't really an Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling film, and Gangster Squad is a bad movie. I have to agree and disagree with that statement, but it's not about whether or not Gangster Squad is a bad movie. It's about the chemistry that two people show on screen. For me, I got a better argument from Eli than I did from Nazario. Personally, that Billy Crystal has better chemistry with Meg Ryan in one film than Tom Hanks does with a span is a very difficult thing to come back from. And Nazario tried. I just don't think he got there for me. So I will actually give my point to Eli, and we will move on to our tiebreaker for this round. One half of Burns and the Boatman, Caleb, Lil Boatman.
Yeah, really good arguments all around. Both of these guys were just hitting it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And both had really good arguments. But really what it came down to me is that I think Dan is right that Nazario really got some good punches in there about the movies. But that's not really the question. The question is about the chemistry between the couple. And I think when it comes to that, Eli did a lot better arguing the chemistry of Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. And I think, Jay, you're right when you say that one of the bigger blows was the fact that Sleepless in Seattle, they're apart from that whole movie. They're not together as much, so their chemistry isn't as strong in that. They're both great in the movie separately, but they don't really have that back and forth chemistry. So I do think I'm going to give this point to Eli.
All right, very nicely done. Very nicely done. I appreciate you for keeping all of our thoughts precise, succinct, and rather short. So let's move into question number 3, since we are all tied up 1-1. Question number 3, I can't wait to see your guys' picks. What actor or actress from present day would you send back in time to the golden age of Hollywood? This is gonna be a whopper. We started with Nazario last time. We're gonna start with Eli. Eli, as soon as you start speaking, but you've got 2 minutes for your opening.
Okay. When I first saw this question, I looked through a list of actors of the modern era that I think could believably be in the golden age of Hollywood. And when I thought about the golden age of Hollywood, I thought about 3 things. I thought, A, they need to be able to act. B, they need to be able to sing. And C, they need to be able to dance. Because back in the golden age of Hollywood, you needed to be a triple threat. And ultimately, I came down to one of my favorite actors on TV because I believe he could do a whole lot better in films at this time. And I went with Grant Gustin, the Flash from the TV show The Flash. And the reason why I say that I chose him was because I looked at a specific episode, and that was the episode Duet in The Flash, where it was set basically during the golden age of Hollywood. And he sang, he could act, he could dance. He played it like a movie musical, and he was able to show off his chops. Not only that, he is a legitimately trained tap dancer, which adds to that being able to dance in the golden age of Hollywood. He could be the next Fred Astaire, or not only that, he could work side by side with Fred Astaire. So that's why I chose Grant Gustin.
All right. So we've got Grant Gustin on one side. I can't wait to see who Nazario's picked. Lil Bo, if you would, roll back the clock for me. And as soon as you start speaking, Nazario, your 2 minutes will start.
I think when you think golden age of Hollywood, you think of 2 strong things. You think of very manly actors and very classy, elegant ladies. And looking at the options in the current frame of Hollywood, I think the best choice possibly is Anne Hathaway, because this is an actress that presents as a classic beauty. She has the wearing gown part down pat. I mean, no one looks as elegant and as classically beautiful as she does when she portrays that type of characters. And I honestly feel you can plug her right in and put her in Breakfast at Tiffany's, or put her in a classic 1940s romance, and she will fit like a glove. I think that's all for now. We can start.
All right. So we have Anne Hathaway, and Grant Gustin. This is, you take your boo and shove it, sir. This is going to be an excellent match. As soon as one of you guys starts talking, what we'll do is we'll start that 5 minutes. We'll start that 5 minutes. So if you want to roll back that clock for me, Lil Boat, and we'll give you all the floor.
When you talked about the golden age of Hollywood and you're saying people only thought about manly men, I completely disagree with you at that, because during that time of the golden age of Hollywood, there were a lot of people who were theatrical. There were a lot of musicals that were coming out, and a lot of musicals with Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire, and that's what I was mainly focusing on. And Grant Gustin is exactly that. If you couldn't get Fred Astaire for your movie, you get Grant Gustin now, and that's exactly why he fits. Anne Hathaway, she would have had to gone up against people like Betty Davis, Lauren Bacall, Katharine Hepburn, and not only that, she would have to go up against Ingmar Bergman, who I believe, when it comes to actresses of that time, those actresses that I just said, they are a whole lot stronger than Anne Hathaway. I don't think Anne Hathaway really fits with the female actresses of that time. And that's just my opinion.
You're talking about an Oscar-winning Best Actress from the modern era that would fit like a glove in that age. We're talking about she has proven she can be elegant with presents herself with a gown like in Princess Diaries and Elle Enchanted. She is classically beautiful. She can do classic romantic comedy. She has proven that with Becoming Jane. And you're basing your whole argument on one episode of The Flash where he sang for 20 minutes. This is an actor that has not been able to prove himself on movies yet because he's basically a TV actor. He's the Flash. Everybody knows that he's the Flash, but that doesn't mean he's great in that. And we're not talking about availability. We're not saying that just because you couldn't get Fred Astaire, you get this guy. That's not what the argument is. The argument is who would fit better. And even if you go with the musical route, let me remind you, Anne Hathaway won her Best Picture for a musical performance in Les Miserables, which is one of the most famous musicals ever made.
But if you want to go with me saying I'm basing my argument off The Flash, I'm not. I can look back at Glee, and he was singing and dancing in that. He has appeared on theater in Billy Elliot, which is a dance-driven theatrical production. I have never seen Anne Hathaway be in anything that requires any dancing. And again, back in the golden age of Hollywood, you needed to be able to dance.
The question is not who fits better in a musical. You're focusing in a very narrow part of the golden age, just the musicals. And your guy can dance. He was in Glee. He was in one episode of Flash dancing. Perfect. And Hathaway won an Oscar for singing, but whatever. And I'm sorry, but if you think of the actors from that era, it's really heavily influenced by the manly man with the suits and smoking and very strong presence. Marlon Brando, Humphrey Bogart, Cary Grant, James Stewart, Kirk Douglas, Gregory Peck. If you put Grant Gustin, who's a tiny kid, in one of those roles, he will never fit. And even if you go younger and want to make like a teen movie with him, like in a James Dean kind of guy, even James Dean portrayed cool, heavy, dark character.
But look, you're saying I'm looking at it small. You're thinking I'm looking at it small. You're looking at it small too. If you look at another actor at the time, like Mickey Rooney, who was a small guy, he is not a believable man's man. He was able to win an Oscar, and I believe Grant Gustin can be a Mickey Rooney-esque type. And then Fred Astaire also winning multiple awards because of that. Bing Crosby being an award winner. You're thinking about, you say I'm thinking of just musicals. You're thinking of just Manly Man, of another small margin. But again, with the female
character in general and the women who were beautiful in these classic movies. It was the style, man. The style was this kind of characters. I'm not saying it's the only thing. I mean, I'm saying it's the overwhelming majority of it. You're focusing on the musicals, which is a small part of what this
time.
And even in musicals. Yep.
Time.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please disregard anything stated after the word time. And we've gone around the globe, so we're back to your glorious, glorious host, myself. So I'm gonna kick this off. Damn it, I did it again. I'm sorry. We have rebuttals. So we're gonna start with Nazario. Nazario, you will get 2 minutes. We'll reset the clock. As soon as you start speaking, the clock will go. And yeah, you've got 2 minutes. Wrap it up. Let us know why Anne Hathaway is the best choice.
Like I said, she's a classic beauty. She would fit right in there with Audrey Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, and Grace Kelly. She could get those kind of parts. She can obviously prove she can wear elegant clothes, be presented like in a big gown, like she has done in Princess Diaries or Enchanted, to an extent in The Devil Wears Prada. She has done classic pieces like in Becoming Jane, which is another big part of the Golden Age historical movies. And she has done romantic movies like One Day, The Other Side of Heaven, where she has proven that she has range. If we go musicals, she already won an Oscar for a musical. She was the Oscar winner for Les Miserables. And I don't know, man, Grant Gustin is unproven. He can dance. He was in Glee. He was in one episode of The Flash dancing. I think he would have been a better pitch for someone with a lot of potential, but we have not been able to see it yet. And like I said, I think he would get lost in the middle of the Golden Age actors. He could not dance in a movie like Singing in the Rain. I don't think he could keep up. I don't think he could keep up in dramas with other characters from the era. Like I said, Marlon Brando, Humphrey Bogart, Cary Grant. I think in the Bad Boys kind of movies, he has too much of a modern face to fit. He doesn't have the bad boy look like James Dean did in a couple of movies he did. He fits more in the modern era. It's to me similar like that to Tom Cruise, who actually doesn't feel right when he tries to do more historic things because his face is very modern. And most of all, he's unproven. Anne Hathaway is proven. She has the ability and the heavy weight to be a solid actress, no matter the genre they tried, especially the ones that the golden age of Hollywood was famous for. And her face is classic beauty. I yield the rest.
Thank you very much for your time. I will move over to Eli. Eli, you have 2 minutes. The clock will be reset as soon as you start. You have your 2 minutes.
You say that Grant Gustin is unproven. Whenever you watch The Flash, you see a lot of dramatic performances that he brings in. They are very tear-jerking and make me cry every single time. And you say that he has too much of a modern face. You look at a person like Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby, and you can even say, oh, they're too modern-like. But no, Grant Gustin brings a lot of the vibes that a classic musical person could bring. And you say that I'm looking too narrowly. When you look at the movies of that time, those are the type of movies that were shown throughout the history. In the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, there were a lot of musicals. And at the time, they were always looking at people just simply at Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, Gene Kelly. Those are the only people they were looking at. Grant Gustin could fill in another spot. That way it doesn't leave them out. And Anne Hathaway is, in my opinion, too much of a modern star because she's only thought of in these modern contexts. I've never once thought of her as a classic star. And you say that he's not a man's man. Well, Mickey Rooney's not really a man's man, but he was casted in a lot of stuff. And even when you look at someone like Jimmy Stewart, he's not really a man's man, but you can believe him when he's in a movie. And Grant Gustin being able to prove that he is able to stand up with the rest of these major stars of movie musicals is exactly why I believe that he could be perfect for Golden Age Hollywood. And by the way, if you haven't seen him in a suit, my God, is he handsome. He is perfect in a suit, and he fits the aesthetic of what Golden Age Hollywood is.
All right, so we had a great argument there between Grant Gustin and Anne Hathaway. I've got some notes from the both of you. Let me grab those right fast. I've got what you really need in the golden age is the ability to be a triple threat, somebody who can act, somebody who can sing, somebody who can dance.
That's from the weather.
When it comes to certain types of roles, I have Nazario stating that you need manly men. There are a lot of burly, tough guys, and Grant Gustin wouldn't be able to keep up with that. But I also have he could be the next Fred Astaire. The Golden Age of Hollywood had more musicals and dance movies and would go up against, and Anne Hathaway would have to go up against some of the greatest actresses of all time in the Golden Age of Hollywood. And I think Eli kind of knocked it out of the park when he said, you know, he's been in theatrical productions before, like Billy Elliot. When you look at the Golden Age, a lot of what they were doing, they were drawing directly from directly from theater to bring it to the screen. I have to give my point to Eli on this one. He just kind of brought it home for me. I will move over to Caleb Lobo Boatman. You're going to go first. You're going to go next on this one.
Well,
Yeah, I'm also going with Eli for about the same reasons you did, Jay. I do think that Nazario had some good arguments there, but he kind of kept sticking on that manly man argument, even when Eli deflected it with people like Mickey Rooney, Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, and he also kind of broke down people like James Stewart. So I really think that Eli right there spoke on Grant Gustin's classical background and all that, and was really kind of able to showcase why Grant would work very well in the golden age of Hollywood. And one thing, I believe Eli was trying to say Ingrid Bergman when he said Ingmar Bergman, who was the director of The Seventh Seal. two different people, but very similar names.
Thank you for the very quick fact check. All right, so it is two very similar types of agreements. We have to give this point to Eli, so that makes it 2-1 in favor of Eli, but let's not leave out our third and favorite judge, Dan Skip Allen. Bud, what did you think about this?
Caleb, good catch on the Ingrid Bergman, because I had the same thing written down on my notes. I'm going to just say that what Nazario said was it's a time of manly men and classy ladies. Anne Hathaway really gets away with wearing gowns in movies. She's very elegant. She's romantic. She fits like a glove in that period. She's classy. She can do comedy. She can do period pieces. She's won an Oscar for a musical. She fits in so good with any genre you put her in. And Eli said acting, dance, that one episode of The Flash he brought up. He said Glee, Fred Astaire, that he disagreed, that he thought Grant Gustin could be theatrical. He was in musicals. And my opinion on what Nazario said was he really showed me that Anne Hathaway could do a myriad of things, and she could fit into multiple genres, and she could be classy. She could be fit into the glam, and he used Audrey Hepburn as an example. To me, that really resonated with me, and I would have given my point to Nazario. And what I also said, he tore down Grant Gustin, and he tore down how Grant Gustin couldn't even lift a candle to some of these other classic actors of the time. And I tend to agree with them as a matter of fact.
That is respectable. You know, these are subjective. You don't agree with us all the time. We don't agree with you all the time. But because it is an uneven scale, we do have a speed round on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, viewers of all ages. So this is going to be game point. We only need 3 points for a win. So this is make or break for you right here, Nazario. And our first speed round question, I'm going to give you an option of two people. Whoever says one name first, they're going to get to speak first. We will be listening for whoever says their name first. What character was the highlight of Back to the Future? Doc Brown or Marty McFly?
Doc Brown.
Oh, I heard Eli first on Doc Brown. Do I need? Okay. I've got confirmation on that. So, Eli, because you spoke first, you'll get your 30 seconds as soon as you start talking. Why is Doc Brown the highlight of Back to the Future?
Whenever you watch Back to the Future, you think about the character that you remember the most. You remember Doc Brown because of his zany attitude and his appearance. And also, not only that, he's the person that created the technology that exists in Back to the Future. And he's also the person that sort of instigates the entire story. Without Doc Brown, you do not have the entire story that is going forward. And without Doc Brown, you are missing a key component to the actual plot.
Very nice. Very well done. Great use of time. Nazario, as soon as you start speaking, Marty McFly, sir, 30 seconds.
Marty McFly is the heart of the story. The story is about him going back in time to meet his parents when he was their age. Doc Brown facilitates this, but he is not the heart of the film. The engine, what drives us, is the story about Marty with his parents, with his mother, and how his interactions with them changed the course of history. Doc Brown is a good supporting character, but that's what he is. He's a supporting character. He's memorable because he's goofy and he shows up in a couple of moments there, but the heart and soul of the movie is driven by Michael J. Fox's performance as Marty McFly.
Great use of time for the both of you. As soon as you start speaking, Eli, you have 15 seconds, Doc Brown.
When you talk about Marty McFly, at least my character, Doc Brown, did not have to be recasted. Doc Brown was Christopher Lloyd, as Doc Brown, was able to carry his performance by himself without needing any other assistance. And you say Doc Brown is a good supporting character. He's also a memorable character, and he's also, again, without him, he would not have created the plot. He wouldn't have created the story.
Time.
And he is the person that...
Time.
All right. please disregard judges. Anything was stated after the word time. We will give Nazario, as soon as you start speaking, we've reset the clock. You have 15 seconds for rebuttal.
We're talking about the character, not the actor. And the character of Marty McFly, it's the soul of the franchise. Like I said, Dr. Brown is mostly a MacGuffin. There's a million other ways he could have gotten a time machine. It doesn't necessarily have to deal with Doc Brown. And the proof is that Doc Brown doesn't really can carry the story, because when he had the chance in the third movie, that it made it the weakest of the trilogy, because that character didn't carry the movie.
Time? Okay. And okay. So we had two very quick, very good fights. Dan, I'm going to go to you first. Tell me what you think, bud.
All right. So Nazario had Marty McFly. He said his heart, he had to go back in time. It's Marty's story. That Doc Brown's just a supporting character. That Doc Brown can't carry a movie by himself. It's about the actor, the character, not the actor. And Eli was talking about Christopher Lloyd and not as much the character of Doc Brown, which is what the question was. And then he said that Marty McFly is driven in this trilogy. Eli goes, Doc Brown's memorable, the most zany. He instigates the story. He's a key component to the plot, and he's memorable. But I didn't hear a whole lot about bashing Marty McFly from Eli. But I did hear a lot of supporting Marty McFly and bashing Doc Brown. And that's why I'm going to give my point to Nazario.
All right. We will go to Lil Boat. Lil Boat, what is your thoughts on this speed round?
Yeah, I think I agree with Dan here. I think Nazario just got more hits in on Doc Brown, whereas Eli, focused a little too much on the actor, whereas Nazario kind of said, oh, Doc Brown's supporting, Marty's the lead, and really hit him there. So I do think that I'm giving the point to Nazario on this one.
Most definitely, most definitely. I do want to reiterate that it was what character was the highlight, not what was the best, but the highlight of the film. I guess an argument could be made for that. Truthfully, I probably would have gone Nazario as well. He had a very well constructed, albeit very short, time frame, but he dismantled the Doc Brown. And I was actually polling for Doc Brown. I thought that would have been very clear, because he is like Eli said, the driving point of the plot. You can't go back in time without him. So for Eli to be able to pull off changing my mind, I thought was very well done. And yeah, this would have been a unanimous decision. With that, we are tied, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into our final speed round question. We are tied up 2-2. This is the most harrowing match I have ever personally been a part of or seen. So we will reiterate real quick. For your second speed round, you do get 3 times to talk each in total. You get 30 seconds, 20 seconds, and then 10 seconds. So we get a 30-second opening, a 20-second rebuttal, and a 10-second rebuttal. And our last question is another, I need to hear one of you say a name first. What classic Universal monster performed by Boris Karloff was the least terrifying? Frankenstein's monster or the Mummy?
The Mummy.
Right.
All right. Since I heard the Mummy from Nazario, Nazario will start. Go ahead and roll that clock back. Little Boat, give us 30 seconds of why the Mummy is the least terrifying Universal monster.
When you think of classic monsters, you always think first Dracula, Frankenstein. That's what the couple hits think. Maybe the third one is the Wolfman. When you think the Mummy, most people don't even remember the Boris Karloff version now. They go instantly to the Brendan Fraser one, because the movie was never really scary in the classic version. The classic version of Boris Karloff in the Mummy, he was more of a priest that was mummified and was mostly looked like a man for the majority of the picture. It didn't really scare you. It was more of a thriller than a horror film per se. And even though it's good and it's a classic, it's inferior to the other choices.
Very good use of your time. I appreciate you watching that clock. All right, Eli, we will reset that clock and give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Why is Frankenstein's monster the least terrifying universal monster?
Frankenstein, at its core, is technically just someone that is out there wandering the world who is only questioning what the world is. He is not a quote-unquote monster. He is not meant to terrify people. He is curious about the world. He is a child wanting to learn what is the world and what is wrong with the world. Sure, the character is memorable, but that's not the question. The question is which one's the least terrifying. And Frankenstein's monster, in my opinion, is the least terrifying between the two, because Frankenstein is merely someone that's curious about the world, and he doesn't want to hurt people.
Time.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. I appreciate you guys keeping track of that time. Nazario, you will get a 20-second rebuttal right now. You still have 1 10-second left. So as soon as you start speaking, the clocks are rolled back. We'll give you 20 seconds.
You're putting it from the point of view of the monster, who really doesn't understand. It's true, but you have to see it from the side of the people who he's affecting. This is a creature that they don't understand. This is a creature that they cannot communicate with. And in his not understanding, he does things that affect people. He actually throws a little girl into the ocean because he thinks that's a play.
Time.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, we will go to Eli. Eli, you have 20 seconds for a rebuttal. As soon as you start speaking, clocks will start.
The Mummy is a methodical character that really wants to destroy the world, and that is terrifying. Wanting to destroy the world and bring back one of your dead lovers is a horrifying thing, and that is something I really don't want to think about. And that is why the Mummy is more terrifying than Frankenstein's monster, because Frankenstein's monster is honestly just a child wanting to learn more about the world.
All right. We have one last rebuttal round for you guys. So, Nazario, please, 10 seconds, wrap everything up. Give us what you got.
Like I said, from the point of view of the villager, that's terrifying because they can understand this creature that actually throws girls into the ocean. The Mummy has a more memorable version in 1999 where the Mummy is actually scary. He's actually trying to bring back his lover. It's mostly romantic.
We will get that clock reset and give Eli his final 10 seconds, and then we will get judges' decisions.
Thinking about the outside is not enough to think about if Frankenstein's monster is terrifying. You also have to look at the inside. On the outside, the Mummy is still terrifying, and on the inside, he is terrifying with his plans and his methodical nature.
Time.
And that is why the Mummy.
Time.
All right. Please disregard anything said after the word time, judges. We went to Dan first last time. Lil Boat, we will go to you. Give me your thought process.
All right, both these guys had really good arguments here. But I think in this case, Eli hit a little bit harder on the monster and why the monster was less terrifying or more terrifying. And Nazario really hit on the Frankenstein being the more memorable character. But I think, the motivation argument for Eli, that Frankenstein, he causes some havoc, but he doesn't want to. He just doesn't understand. He hasn't been taught. Whereas the Mummy has these more sinister motivations. So I am going to give it to Eli here.
All right. We will go to Dan Skip Allen. Dan, I want to hear your thoughts behind this.
All right, well, Nazario said that Frankenstein and Dracula are more memorable. That the Mummy has been portrayed in other movies more recently, and they were better than the Mummy portrayed by Boris Karloff. That the Mummy movie from back in the day isn't that scary. It's an inferior movie to Frankenstein, and that the people watching it aren't that scared watching it compared to watching a movie back about Frankenstein. The people just don't understand about the monster being sympathetic. They look at it as being a monster. Eli said that Frankenstein just wants to understand the world. It's not really a monster. And then also, Nazario said that Frankenstein threw a child in the water. and then Eli said that Frankenstein doesn't want to hurt people. It doesn't want to destroy the world. And then the mummy is scary because it wants to destroy the world and bring back its dead lover. What I got out of this is that Nazario basically said that there are better mummy movies than the original Boric version, and that's not as iconic as Frankenstein and Dracula. And Eli basically said that the mummy wants to destroy the world, bring back its dead lover, that Frankenstein is a more sympathetic character. But what he didn't, he wasn't trying to get across, he didn't get across to me that it's the worst character. We're trying, what is the inferior character? And I felt like Nazario got that across more, that the mummy was an inferior Boris Karloff character compared to Frankenstein. So that's why I would give my point to Nazario.
So again, just as a heads up, it is not what is the worst character, it is which one is least terrifying.
Oh,
No, it's which character is least terrifying, the mummy or Frankenstein. So I don't know if that actually influences your vote one way or another.
No, it stays the same because the points that Nazario made about the girl ripping the girl, throwing the girl into the water, and the people are trying to burn him at the stake and all this stuff. He made points to show that Frankenstein's much more terrifying than the mummy, to me.
Okay, I respect that. I wasn't trying to sway your vote. I was just letting you know what the correct wordage of the question was. So it's a tiebreaker. I hate to be this guy because I want everybody to like me. But the question is what classic universal monster performed by Boris Karloff was the least terrifying? I look at it from the perspective I got out of Eli, that the mummy wants to destroy the world and bring back his lover. With Nazario, I got Frankenstein's monster killed one girl and then is terrorized by an entire town. I got from Nazario that there are better mummy movies. That is completely beside the point. I heard more from Eli as to why Frankenstein's monster was the least terrifying creature than I did about the mummy. Nazario spent a little bit of time saying, yes, there are newer mummy movies and that mummy is scarier. I don't think that helped your point. I think that really kind of just helped Eli nail this, because you stated that there are scarier mummies. He has a scarier motivation for what he's doing. And world domination over terrorizing one village, to me, is what gets it. Destroying the world and doing it for a selfish reason instead of being a sympathetic character is what does it for me. So personally, I have to give my point to Eli. Yeah.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, your winner for tonight is Eli McCaig. I do have to let you know real quick before we get into final thoughts and going around the world. What was brought to the middle of the match was, we know who you're going to be facing next. The person that you're going to be facing next is Jake Damon, and it's going to be at an event called Scratch and Claw. Now, are you worried at all, Eli, about facing Jake?
I honestly don't know right now. I'll have to go back and watch a match that he had, and whenever I hear the questions I have, I just need to prepare more. That way I can do better in my competition. But hey, all I have to say is, Nazario, this was a great match. You were a very strong competitor. I'm glad that my first opponent was you, because you really pushed me. And that really helped me later on in the match to go, okay, I need to do better. I need to do better. I need to do better. And I want to thank you so much for pushing me to want to do better. And yeah, sure, right now, am I a little bit scared about my opponent? I don't know. I need to see him compete, but until then, all I can say is I can't wait for it at this event called Scratch and Claw. Sure, why not? That doesn't sound frightening at all.
So, just a little funny piece of advice, or not piece of advice, but little piece of trivia. This is a direct quote from one Subrath Sharma. It's called Scratch and Claw. Well, you know, because they're going to literally scratch and claw at Brooklyn's face. So now we know why. Now we know why it's called what it's called. Nazario, you put up one hell of a fight. You took it the distance. I'm pretty sure I can speak for all three of our judges and say that, both of these judges and myself, and say that this was an incredible debut match for you. How are you feeling, even though it is a loss? Are you looking forward to more of these, or are you gonna kind of like take a step back, reevaluate, and come back and just try to wreck shop?
Honestly, I could go right now for another match. I love arguing. I think that's pretty obvious about how I develop in this match. I love getting into my opponent's head and making them doubt their picks. It's fun for me. Of course, I believe I won every single point today, even if you don't agree with it. I do think Eli is a strong player. He made some solid points here and there, but it feels to me that some of his choices were odd. I feel like sometimes he was putting himself in a disadvantage from the get-go, because it actually gave like a lot of openings to be hit from. But maybe that was a ruse. Maybe I fell for it, because sometimes when you see a person so open, you try to hit them from all sides. You miss it when they come in the center for you. So I'm actually fine with my performance. Like I said, I am convinced I won, even if you guys didn't choose that way. But Eli is obviously a great fighter, and I'm rooting for him in the scratch and post thing that I didn't know existed until right now. So I want to root for him.
Awesome, man. It was great to see you. You put up a hell of a fight. It was an amazing debut. I'm gonna jump over to our man, the Dan, the legend, Dan Skip Allen. Brother, how are you feeling about this match? How are you feeling about Nazario's debut? Give us your thoughts. The world wants to know.
Well, if you go back to the beginning of the match, I said I have intimate knowledge of how good of a debater that Eli McCaig was, and that Nazario really had to bring it to get me to go on his side. And I want to tell you something. I thought Nazario brought it. I gave him every point. That's how much I thought he did a great job. I gave him every single point in the match. That's how much of a great job that I thought Nazario did. I'll tell you what, I am so impressed by Nazario. Eli, I knew he was gonna be a great debater, because I've seen him do it. I've heard him do it before, and so it's no surprise to me that he won. But I was just blown away by the depth and the knowledge that Nazario brought to his debating today.
Very nice, very nice. I believe we all were. I'm going to jump over to the better half of Burns and the Boatman. Caleb, Lil Boatman, what are your thoughts on the match and how it ended?
Yeah, this was a killer match. Eli did a great job. Nazario did a great job. Both these guys just back and forth. Like, seriously, like, it was like, for all my decisions, it was like 51-49 for who had the better argument. Both these guys were just knocking each other's argument down, building their own ones up. It was so intense. It was back and forth, everything. This was an amazing, amazing, amazing match. This is one of the best movie Battleground matches I have personally watched, and it's definitely one of the best ones I've been a part of. I loved loved this matchup. And yeah, great job, Nazario. We're gonna see great things from you in this league because you definitely did a great job. And I think it goes to show it was so close. So you definitely, we're gonna see you win some more soon. And then Eli, yeah, just great job again. Congrats on the win. This was just an amazing match.
Well, you've heard from all of us. I feel I've talked enough tonight. Pikachu says the exact same thing. So we will go around the world real quick, get where we can find everybody on the social medias. We will start with our winner tonight, Mr. Eli McCaig. Where can the good people or the bad people or everybody in between find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at Eli McCaig. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Eli Mag. And you can find me at Multiplex whenever they do trivia matches or maybe some of their debate matches. And then whenever I'm in a full metal trivia team geek match, you can hopefully see me there.
Awesome. We will go to the unfortunate loser of today's match, but the winner in his own mind and the hearts of the people out there, probably. Nazario Montenegro, where can the good people find you, bud?
I'm all around these trivia leagues. This is my handle in most social media platforms. But I will warn you, it's mostly about toys and it's going to be mostly in Spanish. I'm in Full Metal Trivia. I'm in Multiplex. I also am now in Confidential Cinema. A couple of shows there. If Henry actually decides to release some of them, please. And yeah, you can find me if you look enough for me.
Most definitely. Dan, I know you have the least amount to plug right now, but it's the most important. Outside of the two competitors today, let us know where we can find you.
You can always find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, or at From the Fourth Row at WordPress.com, where I write about movies, or the website that I work for called Cinesportstalk.com. That's CINESPORTSTALK.com, where I write about sports and movies.
Very nice. My Better Half in Podcasting, where can they find you, Lobo?
Yeah, well, as you said, we've got me and Jay have our own little podcast called The Burns and the Boatman Talk, or We'll Burn Your Houseboat Down, or whatever we decide to title it that week. But yeah, it's a really fun show, lots of very funny back and forth stuff. We just did our episode on our top 10 animated movies of all time. Before that, we did an episode reacting to the Oscar nominations. Just a really fun time all around. And you can also find me on Caleb Boatman on most social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and also Letterboxd. That's important because I'm trying to get more active on Letterboxd and want more followers there. So follow me, Caleb Boatman, on Letterboxd. And yeah, you can find me playing trivia here, Full Metal, find me playing. I want to get into movie Battleground soon, so you can find me once I do have a match there. Find me Multiplex, just playing trivia wherever good trivia is found. Yeah, this was a really fun match. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. And finally, for your main judge tonight, I'm not going to go through this long-winded speech, so you can find me at jburns253 on Twitter. You can find me at jburns on Facebook, and you can follow my letterbox at JBR253. For that, we will get the hell out of here. We like you at